Take the scenic route to the beach and stargaze through the moonroof. We'll see if your drums fit in the trunk, then we can pick up Mommy's friends and check out that legroom. And we should really visit Grandma. She's getting up there.
That's like a whole lifetime in 7 days.
And like one busy family.
With our 7-day money-back guarantee, you can confidently shop for cars 100% online. Visit Carvana.com for all terms and conditions. We'll drive you happy at Carvana.
The ghost pepper has a reputation, so does a ghost pepper wing that doesn't send you into tears make any sense? Does to us. That's why Popeye's ghost pepper wings are the perfect balance of flavor and fire. Popeye starts with intensely craveable flavor, adds the right amount of kick to keep things interesting, not infernoing, and then offers them at only $5 for 6 pieces. Because in New Orleans, we like to taste our food, not cry over it. Call us crazy.
Love that chicken from Popeyes.
Limited time at participating U.S. restaurants. Price may vary. Additional terms apply.
This is Beer in Front, part of the OddPods Media Network. Every week I'll talk about a beer that maybe we've forgotten along the way while we get those check-ins and badges. Some weeks I'll talk about a new beer that has potential to be a classic. Being the Chicago beer guy, I'll also talk about great craft beer and craft beer news in the city of Chicago. Remember, sometimes the beer in front of you is the best one yet. That's Beer in Front, and it's coming up now. Welcome to episode 161 of Beer in Front. I'm your host, Dave Zalatoris, and Beer in Front is a proud member of the OddPods Media Network. I have a great show this week. I talked to Jay over at Walnut River Brewing in Kansas. That was informative, and yes, there will be talk of a brothel. This week, I interviewed people from Montucky Cold Snacks, Great Lakes Brewing, the Cicerone program, and those shows will come out in the next few weeks. I'll also be talking soon to Crooked Hammock Brewing. They're out of Myrtle Beach. Georges Tomei, he's the author of the book, The Shape of Brewing. And I'll also talk with Barry and Abigail from the Pops on Hops podcast. I just came back from vacation. We were out in California. This was the first time I've been on a plane since the pandemic. Between the pandemic and our goofy dog, I haven't had a chance to go anywhere. It was nice to be in sunny California for a few days for my mother-in-law's birthday. A few things about California. What's up with all the crows? Everywhere I went, there were crows. They were dark. I was expecting them to break out a little remedy or anything else, but no, they didn't sing. Also, I happened to be at a gas station buying beer, and I didn't know, I'm just looking at the counter killing time. California banned menthol cigarettes? As a former cool, mild smoker, that's messed up. To the person who listened to the podcast in the last month from the state of Nebraska, thank you. Beer in Front has now been listened to in every state. Also, to those in Portugal, Singapore, New Zealand, and Paraguay, thank you for listening. If you'd like to support the show, you can. Head over to patreon.com/beerinfront for more information. Thank you. In beer news, Oscar Blues is revamping the look of the iconic Dale's Pale Ale, as well as coming out with the new Dale's Light Lager. We'll see how that shakes out. Sales of the new Sam Adams and the new Fat Tire, after an initial bump, they haven't picked up like they've hoped. Speaking of relaunches, Kona Brewing is separating its Big Wave from the rest of the line, and Big Wave gets a new logo, packaging, and is now going to compete in the premium beer category. Long story, but I have the old Kona Brewing tattoo, and I'll be sad to see the lizard go away from Big Wave. But wait, there's more. Hockershore is joining the new logo trend by releasing a new packaging and logo for, get this, a more updated look that will appeal to new traditions of drinkers. Cincinnati's Rheingeist Brewing, they're teaming up with the University of Cincinnati for a new Cincy Light Lager. A portion of Cincy Lights, the sales are going to support the NIL efforts of Cincinnati Bearcat student athletes. So a beer will help fund 18-year-olds to get a name, image, likeness, money compensation to play sports. I don't get it, but who am I? I mentioned on the show a few weeks ago that there could be a Purdue beer can chicken beer. Well, it's official now. Purdue, the chicken company, they're partnering with New York-based Torch and Crown, and this is a summer ale with citra hops and seasonings like thyme, pink peppercorns, and rosemary to enhance the flavors of the chicken, as well as stand alone as a beer to enjoy. So I guess you could head over to Torch and Crown or Purdue's website to see if you could get your hands on the beer can chicken beer. Locally here in Chicago, Choose Chicago, in partnership with the Illinois Craft Brewers Guild, they announced the launch of the 2023 Chicago Friday Night Flights. It's going to open this Friday, June 2nd, in Gallagher Way in Wrigleyville. There's going to be over 30 breweries from neighborhoods across the city, food, there's a DJ. Now, I'm going to be at this one Friday, so if you're in the Wrigley Field area Friday between 5 and 7, look for me. But there's also another session later on in the day. You could get tickets in advance for $25 or $30 at the door. That's going to include 10 3-ounce beer samples, a ton of breweries here. They all look great. I don't want to list them all because it's a quick show. I don't talk that long. But there is a lot of great breweries across the city and state. So please check out ChicagoFridayNightFlights.com.
I'm Richie, a.k.a. Midnight Agent Raw.
I'm Devin, a.k.a. Special Delivery Dev.
We're the Super Media Bros podcast. And each week, we give a comedically informative take on movies,
music,
television,
pro wrestling,
and much more. Check us out at supermediabrospodcast.com, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or anywhere else that you can listen to podcasts. Shades on.
We're off.
Be sure to catch the latest from Super Media Bros wherever you listen to podcasts. All right, welcome back. Walnut River is a brewery located in El Dorado, Kansas, with a restaurant and brew pub in Wichita. They began operations in 2013, and in July, Walnut River will celebrate their 10th anniversary. Coming on now to talk about Walnut River is Jay Sanderson. He's the head of sales. Jay, thanks for coming on and an early 10th anniversary to the brewery.
Well, thank you, Dave. And I must say before we start, I really, really enjoy the podcast. I was turned on to it not too long ago by a friend. And I actually, it seems like almost counterintuitive, counterproductive, but I listen to the podcast when I'm working out. So I'm thinking about my reward at the gym while I'm getting in my workout. So thank you.
Yeah, well, most gyms show the food channel or something while you're working out. So it's good that you're listening about beer.
Yes, sir.
How did you guys start the brewery? How did that come about?
So the brewery, it's actually kind of an interesting story. So we have 3 principal owners, and they're in the building every day. We're a small company. We're actually the second largest brewery in the state of Kansas, and there are 8 of us who work there total. So we get after it with a small crew. But the 3 owners, a guy named BJ Hunt, Travis Rohrberg, and Rick Gearing are the owners. BJ Hunt his career was he ran a family business. It was a daycare center that had 250 children in it. Rick was a corporate IT guy for a long time, and Travis was in pharmaceuticals and the ethanol industry. He's got a degree in microbiology. Okay. And so BJ wanted to open a brewery in Wichita, and he didn't know anything about brewing, but he had a friend who did and hooked him up with Rick. And they got together one day, and he said, yeah, I'll try the beer. And they got together, and Rick had been a home brewer for 30 years and had a dream of owning a brewery someday also. And so they got together. They BJ sampled some of Rick's homebrew stuff, and as we say lovingly at the brewery, this doesn't suck. And that is high praise at our place. And BJ said, yeah, this beer doesn't suck. And so they started to launch a business plan. And then not long after they started that plan, Travis got involved, kind of just coming around, helping out. He also was a home brewer, so he got involved slowly but surely. And then after a short amount of time, saw that this was going to probably be successful, invested in the company in its early days. And that was 10 years ago. And we are now just smooth sailing here 10 years later.
Awesome. The building that you're in, now looking at the website, the building itself could be a whole episode by itself. The building opened up around World War I. In between then and now, it's been a bakery, a creamery, a market, and a brothel.
Yes, and so it's a 2-story building, as you mentioned. It's more than 100 years old, and in the early days, it first opened as a grocery store, and that was on the lower level. On the second floor, there was a much more sordid operation going on. A woman named Goldie operated her brothel upstairs, and for years and years, the police left her alone. She was open from basically World War I through World War II. At that time, El Dorado was almost as big as Wichita, and in fact, it was a far wealthier town than Wichita because the oil boom in Kansas was centered in El Dorado. And so at the time, Goldie's service was $2, and a similar service in Wichita was just $1 because it was wealthier people out in El Dorado. And so the market was a little higher out there. But the local police left her alone because they were far more worried about gambling rings and prohibition behavior down on the first level. And so the police left Goldie alone, and she did her thing for all those years.
Any chance of a Goldie's Golden Ale coming up soon?
We have discussed that a number of times. Modern sensibilities are a smidge different now, and so we're not. It has come up. It's not a complete no, but we just haven't found the right scenario to launch that beer yet.
Yeah. When initially Ben, now he's the marketing person, he got a hold of me and was saying that your flagship beer is an Irish Red, and I'm actually drinking Warbeard right now. I love Irish Reds, one of my favorite styles, and actually when I make my corned beef around St. Patrick's Day, I always make it in Irish Red beer. So Ruby, my wife, if you're listening and you see a debit card charge at a gas station in Kansas, just let it be. It's research and development. How did Irish Red become your flagship?
Well, in the initial days of the brewery, that was not the beer that they had intended to become the flagship. So Rick wanted to have a California Common be the flagship beer. But as most people in business find out, you don't decide what your flagship is, the market does. A couple of things happened with Warbeard. One, as you're sampling it right now, it's a damn good beer. It's just, the liquid is fantastic. It's smooth, it's easy drinking, it hits, the maltiness, it's just on point in every way possible. That, and if you look at the can, the can art is fabulous. It's just beautiful. And when you see that sitting on a shelf, it stands out.
Yeah, it really pops.
At that time, when the brand was launched, it was just the perfect confluence of everything happening all at once. There was no Irish Red really on the market outside of maybe like Killian's. And that's kind of even dissipated a little bit in the United States also. And so in Kansas, it's the only Irish Red that is packaged and sold. And we have distribution in Kansas and Missouri, and it does well in Missouri also. You're a Chicago guy. You can get it in St. Louis if you're ever in that area. We do really well in St. Louis.
I'll have to, take a drive down and pick some up. That's
exactly right. So one of the things that really made it go well early was there was some scarcity to the product in the early days. The brewery now is on a 30-barrel brew system, but it originally started just on a modest 2-barrel system, and we actually still have that and use that as our pilot batch system. But in the beginning, the guys, they kept their full-time jobs, and would just brew on Friday nights, Saturdays, and Sundays, and they would triple batch into a 7-barrel fermenter. And so they were serving beer in the back of a flea market, which is where the brewery is now. It was a flea market right before it turned into the brewery, but they were just serving it out of a kegerator, just into growlers and crowlers to go. They didn't have any on-premise consumption or anything like that, but they went through it quickly because it became well known and popular that people liked it. And then their first, they got a bar in Wichita to take it and sell it. And the first night they sold through a keg in like an hour and a half on a night that they had a concert. And then word started to spread. And so you put in the scarcity of a really good product with the popularity of it and the cool marketing, and the brand just exploded. Everything happened in the right place at the right time. And then Walnut River Brewing was established. And then we've launched the other flagship brands since then. But Warbeard is what keeps the lights on. It kept them on then. And it is absolutely the cash cow, so to speak. And really, Warbeard is the number one selling locally made craft beer in the state of Kansas. And we're very, very proud of that.
Yeah, it's an excellent beer. I'm having it right now. Very good malt profile here. That's the first thing that I get. Looking at the spec sheet here, only 5.5% alcohol. This is easily crushable. You could have this all year round. It's not just for St. Patrick's Day when you see a lot of the Irish Reds that come out. So this is definitely a year-round beer and delicious.
It doesn't drink like a beer that color you would suspect would drink. It's very, very easy to drink. I see people have this at the lake all the time. And yes, we have lighter offerings. We have a Kolsch. We have a wheat beer. We have some summer beers. We do a Radler in the summer. But Warbeard is old reliable, and it just goes and goes and goes. Now there is a segment of the drinking market that doesn't buy it in the summer. They'd prefer to drink it in the spring and the fall. But that's not what our market at large does. It really does sell well year round.
You were mentioning some of the other beers you have. I was seeing that you have 5 beers that are available year round, and you have an additional 10 that are in the yearly rotation. Besides what you mentioned, what other styles of beer does Walnut River put out?
So we do a 6-month seasonal coffee line. We do a coffee porter called Devil's Blend Coffee Porter. That is done in the fall and the winter. And then we do Angel's Blend Coffee Kolsch in the spring and summer. The Coffee Kolsch, this is the second year that we've done that. We introduced that last year. The Devil's Blend Coffee Porter used to be a year-round beer, but it did kind of fizzle a little bit in the warmer months. And so we pulled that back to a 6-month seasonal and complemented that with the Coffee Kolsch, and they both do beautifully. In fact, the Devil's Blend is my favorite beer that we make at the brewery. Okay. I like porters, I like coffee, and we do ours a little bit differently than a lot of other breweries when they do coffee beers. We kind of have a proprietary method that we have developed that I've not heard of anybody else using, and it keeps some of the astringency and bitterness of the coffee out of the beer, and it really smooths it out a whole bunch. And if you're ever able to get your hand on the Devil's Blend, a couple of tips. It's really, really good with pancakes and sausage. It's just fabulous. So if like on a Saturday morning, you're kicking around. I first had it. We went camping and somebody offered it to me with breakfast out on a camping trip. It was good. And then the other way that it's just blissful is do a beer float and put a scoop of vanilla ice cream in with the coffee porter, and it is just out of this world as a dessert. So those are our 2 coffee beers. And then the rest of the seasonals, we do a Belgian Tripel called Maniacal Monk. We do a session IPA called Day Pass. Our Radler is called Eliminator. So there's a meaning to that. ZZ Top is Rick, our head brewer's favorite band of all time. And if you look at the High Beam can, it looks like the cover of the Eliminator album. And
all right, now that you mention it, I could definitely see that. Yeah.
Yes, sir. And then, of course, naming a lemon Radler, the Eliminator, that was a no-brainer to do that. Yeah. Our Oktoberfest is our most popular seasonal. I will put our Oktoberfest up against anybody else's in the United States. We do an imperial version of Warbeard. Our Imperial Irish Red is called Moorbeard. And then we do a Russian Imperial Stout called Kuvalda. And Kuvalda actually means sledgehammer in Russian. And as an imperial stout, it is a bit of a sledgehammer. And then the last beer that we release annually, it's a short run, and we do a kind of a limited batch of it. But we run a homebrew contest every year, and the winner of that gets to come in and brew on our big 30-barrel system and have their beer sold in the market. So those are the 10 seasonals that we have in addition to our 5 year-rounds.
When does this homebrew competition run? Like, is it open now? Can people send in entries now?
So what we do is we have a mug club at the brewery, and mug club sign-up day is always Black Friday, the day after Thanksgiving every year. And so with our mug club, we have 75 members at our main brewery and 50 at our restaurant in Wichita. And you get to renew every year. We cap it at that number, but every year we'll have a handful of people who don't renew. And so on Black Friday, we don't announce how many there are available. And so every year on Black Friday, we have a line out the door at 9 a.m. for people wanting to get however many available Mug Club memberships there are. And so Black Friday's kind of become a big day for us. Even people who don't get the membership, we still have food trucks out front, and we have kind of a little party to celebrate our town and our customers. And so a couple years ago, we came up with this idea that we're going to do this homebrew contest. And so we run it differently than everybody else. And so we have, it goes in 2 stages. We actually have a brew day where people we invite them and they come to our facility, and in our parking lot, they set up their homebrew equipment. We supply the water, we supply electricity, but they bring their entire system set up in our parking lot, and we have like a group brew day. And it's kind of become a festival for homebrewers. And we celebrate homebrewers because I started as a homebrewer. Most everybody at the brewery was a homebrewer before they got into the business. And so we want to celebrate the heart of where we came from and celebrate, the craft beer community. The DNA is homebrewing, and we want to celebrate that. And so we run this contest. So brew day is Black Friday. We open up our taps in the building to them. They get to go out and kind of have pours of, whatever they want of our beers while they're making theirs. Then they take it home and ferment it. And then we bring them back on, we do it 7 weeks later. We do it the Saturday of Martin Luther King weekend, because a lot of folks have that Monday off. Okay. And we do a judging day where all of it, the employees of the brewery, and we bring in a couple of guest judges from other local breweries to help judge. And while we're judging, all the entrants bring their entries back. And while we're upstairs in the office doing the judging, all of those guys and gals are on the first floor basically having a big bottle share party.
All right.
And so it's become like a 2-day homebrew party / festival. And then we go down, we announce the winner, and then everybody just kind of hangs out, and it just becomes like a big beer party. And so we do run our homebrew contest a little differently. So that's in January is when the judging is, and we typically schedule the brew day for early April to have the beer out into the market on May 1st.
The winner, they get their beers out in cans, and it's all around like the distribution area as well, too?
Yes, we do put it out for distribution. So each year the winner can have a 6-pack or whatever he wants sitting on his mantle as a trophy of his beer that he made that has a label, a professionally designed label, and that's his keepsake and memento forever. And it's become a really cool thing. We've never had anybody ask, well, what's my cut of the profit? And we don't make a whole lot on this. We do it more as a labor of love to give back to the homebrew community. We assume all the risk in brewing the big batch. And so, but the winner, they essentially help us design the label that goes out into the market. Their name goes on it. I mean, it's a whole big package that they receive. And then they come out on brew day, they come out on packaging day, and they participate in the process start to finish. So their hand is in it the entire time. And this year was the second year we did that. The first year, our winner was a black IPA, which was fantastic. And this year it was kind of an off the beaten path beer, but it was delicious. It was a fruit punch ale. And if you imagine Hawaiian punch as a beer, that's exactly what this was. And it was out of this world. And he did it entirely with hops. He didn't put any fruit in it. He got the red color from using hibiscus But the tropical fruit flavor 100% came from hops, and it was awesome.
Oh, I see. For year 4 of this, maybe doing a mix pack of all 4 winners from the first 4 years.
That's a cool idea.
Yeah.
You know what? I'm going to write that down because, as we say in the building, if you steal from a brewery, you've stolen twice.
Yeah.
Everybody's stolen somebody else's idea at some point.
Yeah.
So I'm going to make a note of that. We ought to kind of bring back those on like our 2-barrel system and do a small run of variety packs. That's a great idea.
Well, for payment, you could send a 12-pack my way then.
We can do that.
Yeah. You mentioned the distribution, like you said, you're big in St. Louis, you're in Missouri. Are there any other like states? I mean, besides the 2 that you could get it, or do you do like mail order if people wanted to order your stuff online?
Well, we wish we could. So what a lot of folks don't know is Kansas, and this is a true story, was actually ground zero for prohibition. Prohibition in Kansas was enacted in 1880, and it was federally enacted in 1919. So Kansas had a 40-year head start on the federal prohibition. And then after the federal prohibition was repealed in 1933, Kansas held on to it until about 1950. So Kansas still has some very, very arcane liquor laws, including the inability to ship beer directly to customers. And it's an unfortunate thing because people travel in here, they try war beer, they want to take it home, or some of our other beers. We get requests all the time to our email inbox for asking us to mail samples, and we just can't do it. I wish we could. I wish we could sell beer through the mail because it would open up a lot of different channels for us business wise. But Kansas is a deep, deep red state, and some of those uber conservative sensibilities from the past are being held on to very rigidly.
Yeah, well, even Illinois, which is pretty much a blue state, but we have the same laws here where it was on the books for this session, and I don't think it's finally been voted on, but we have the same thing where breweries here cannot direct ship to consumers. And yeah, like you said, that would just open up a whole new, revenue stream for, every small business.
It really would, but it also would limit the ability for the governments to tax it if it were shipped directly to customers. And Uncle Sam's going to get his piece of the pie no matter what. What's funny is between state and federal taxation here, the government writ large in Kansas and the federals, they make more money on a gallon of our beer than we do, which is just insane.
And what about like here? I know between the distribution channels and the retailers, if you add them up, they make more than the brewery does too.
And that's okay because that's part of the 3-tier system, and we are okay with that because our distribution network, we need them because we don't have the manpower or the infrastructure with trucks and whatnot to get everything delivered out to 2 different states. And so we do rely on our distributors, and it's a wonderful working partnership, and we are so thankful for them because they're our boots on the ground, and we have fantastic relationships with all of them. It's part of the business deal. It's set up the way it is, and it works for us. I know there are others who have more nuanced views of how the distribution works, but we're pretty happy with how that all goes.
As we're finishing up here, and I'm finishing up my Warbeard, you mentioned an Imperial. What's the difference between the Imperial and the regular Warbeard?
So we basically double the grain bill when we make it. It's a little bit heavier on the mouthfeel. It's Warbeard. It's our Imperial Irish Red. It's called Morebeard. And if you've got that little magazine that I sent you, it's in the back of there. The description of it is in there. But it's 10.1%, whereas Warbeard is 5.5%. But it's essentially the exact same grain bill and hop additions. It's just doubled. And we do that it's a little bit smaller run that we do that, but also we do those. Most of our beers were 6-pack cans in cases. We do this in 4-packs of 16-ounce cans. Okay. As opposed to 6 12-ounce cans. And so we want you to get more, each time. And so that's a brand that has kind of gained a cult following here a little bit. People do say, hey, when's Morebeard coming out? This year we adjusted when we release it. It had previously been like a January, February release. This year we shifted it back to September. And the people who are waiting for where is it? What the hell's going on? and when it didn't come out in the early part of the year. But now it'll create even more pull when we let go of it in September.
Oh, awesome. Well, Jay, I appreciate you coming on. I really enjoyed talking to you. I have to make a drive down to Kansas and pick some up. Is there anything else you'd like to tell the people about your brewery that, we didn't touch on?
Well, first of all, if you ever make it to Kansas, give me a call and we'll make sure you get a private tour of the brewery. It's
awesome.
Not a big building, but since you talked about the building, you got to come see it. So if you're ever down toward the Wichita, Kansas area for any reason, we would love to welcome you and host you at the brewery. That would be a great time. We just check out our website, walnutriverbrewing.com. We're just hardworking blue collar guys that like beer, that work hard, that have fun with what we do. We don't take ourselves seriously. We take customer service seriously. But we feel like we're just like every other average Joe out there who just likes to drink good beer.
Yeah. Well, and I'll vouch for their beer because it's all great. If you listen later on in the show, I'm going to have a few more of their beers and I'll talk more in depth about them. But everything I've had so far that was delivered via carrier pigeon, I've really enjoyed. So, Jay, thank you again, brother. I will see you down the road, sir.
Yes, sir. Take care. Stay in touch.
Hey, I'm Lauren.
And I'm John.
And we host the Beard Al Podcast, the podcast where we talk about two of the greatest things in the world, beer and Weird Al.
And a lot of other things. We're funny.
Yeah, that's basically what I told him to say. Good job with your script.
Listen.
Yay! But no, seriously, we try and pair a beer with a Weird Al song and talk about both things and go where the conversation takes us. It's fun, I promise. You'll like it.
Yeah, I mean, if you like talking about random things as well as, fine craft beers and some wonderful craft music.
Please check out my friends at Beard Al, any place you listen to podcasts. The next beer from Walnut River that I'm going to have is their IPA. This is called High Beam. This checks in at 7.7%. It's a West Coast style IPA with 65 IBUs. So let's crack it open. High Beam is a really nice color. Good amber color, I'd say, to this. Good 2 fingers of foam. Good. The aroma, I get it's citrus. I'm trying to think what else. Maybe a little bit floral as well, but the aroma is very nice. No, that's good. I get some floral notes to the taste as well as not so much tropical. I get more of the citrus here, but I think this is a really good West Coast IPA. High Beam uses Falconer's flight hops in the recipe. I think this one's a winner. So if you're in the distribution area, I would definitely pick up High Beam IPA. The next one up from Walnut River is Rearranged. This is an IPA with added orange zest. 5.9% alcohol, 44 IBUs. Let's crack open this one. This is a nice light color, really good foam here. Yeah, the aroma's good. I definitely pick up the orange zest, and I get a little tropical notes to this, but for me, the orange is the predominant flavor here that I'm getting. No, that's good. I'm a big fan of orange in anything, so this is a nice touch to this. I like this one a lot. So, once again, another great beer from Walnut River. If you see Rearranged, throw it in the cart. All right, that's going to wrap things up for this week's episode of Beer in Front. I thank you very much for listening. I want to thank Jay Sanderson from Walnut River Brewing. Please check them out if you're in their distribution area, which is Kansas and Missouri. Well worth it. Great beers, great people. Please check them out. Next week's show, I'm going to have Montucky cold snacks. So look for that. A lot of good stuff happening in the next month or so on Beer in Front. Please remember, sometimes the beer in front of you is the best one yet. All right, everyone, take care. I will talk to you next week.